Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday. Happy September 17th. Today's actually my wife's birthday, so at the conclusion of posting this video, probably won't be on a lot today, responding to a lot of comments as I spend the day with her and, hopefully give her a good birthday and whatnot. So today we are on the 20th episode of the My Favorite LJN tournament. So at this rate, we are going to be halfway through the tournament, halfway through the first round of the tournament, I should say. There's still plenty of tournament to go. And as a matter of fact, a few days ago, I did check on Facebook and Ram Treasures did upload a new figure. So we are going to get a new Nord the Barbarian, aka we know of the Berserker from WWF. We got a couple different variants. So sometime this week, I am going to get that figure in the mail. And if you're interested, Net did actually upload a couple additional figures. So one is just a repaint of a junkyard dog figure with the white pants and stars. I got a couple of those customs you guys will see in this tournament. And I think we've already looked at one of those already. So already having that pretty much that same figure already, I don't think I need to go out and buy another one through Ram Treasures, but with me, you never know. As a completist, I might find the need to. She also has a prototype Ricky Steamboat. Now, I said that I would love to get a lot of these prototypes out, so stuff like the Ricky Steamboat figure, I wouldn't mind getting the original design that LJN had come out with prior to them coming out with the all-black Ricky Steamboat figure, but I just didn't want to go out and pay $125, $150 for that figure. And I think as a painted figure, right now it's about $85, which I still think is extremely high for, basically, in my opinion, LJN Ricky Steamboat. Probably get on eBay or Mercari, probably get that figure for like anywhere between $5 to $10. Let's say $10, about $5 to $15, depending on the condition and whatnot. So you find yourself a good friend that knows how to do really good customizations. Maybe they get it done for you for around $10, $15, $20, shipping there and back and forth. All in all, you'd probably be in about $40. So $85 to get it customized, I don't know. At this point, I'm not going to get it right away, but that might be on the docket to pick up in the near future. So later on this week, when that Berserker figure does come in, that is one I am crazy excited to begin talking about. And yes, that Berserker will be a part of this tournament. So excited about that. And there's certain figures, certain characters that really like put a spark or a little twinkle in my eye that I get like crazy excited about, and that's definitely one of those figures. So seeing pictures of it, it looks remarkable. So having it actually physically in hand and get the opportunity to talk about it, I'm excited. So again, that will be a review video sometime this week, depending on how quickly it comes in. So as of today's video for the My Favorite LJN tournament, let's go ahead and pull our competition. So from Wrestlingwriter, we have Hulk Hogan, and he will square off against Orange Sting, also from Wrestlingwriter. So Hogan from Wrestlingwriter. This is what's confusing me because I have multiple figures from him, so I don't know which one that is. I really should have been more specific, but that's alright. One or the other. In the future, whichever figure I didn't pull will make up for it. Ooh, this is a good one. From the Raider Nation, we got Doink, and he will... I hate these matches. They're so tough. Doink will take on Andre Series 2. Next matchup is going to feature Black Bobby Heenan, and he will do battle with Dingo Warrior. And finally, try and dig in towards the bottom of the bowl here. Dingo Warrior, Bobby Heenan. And last one was Cactus Jack. And he does battle against Kerry Von Erich. That is also the Wrestlingwriter figure. So, very strong Erik video with a lot of his customs. So I'm going to go ahead and get those figures pulled, and I'll be back in a split second. Alright, everybody. So the figures have been pulled. And man, kind of looking at this, almost every figure is a Wrestlingwriter figure. So it's just kind of crazy the way that I randomly selected these pieces. But insane. First match I said was Hogan. And I just put Hogan Wrestlingwriter. So there's a couple different variants I got from Erik. I got the NWO Hogan. Kind of like the black Hogan where they're utilizing a Jesse Ventura. We kind of seen the exact same figure from John Ruggiero earlier in this tournament. So basically the exact same figure. But I don't think that's what it was. Otherwise I would have wrote NWO Hogan. So I believe I pulled the right Hogan for this particular matchup. And this is actually probably one of the better ones, more difficult selections. It's going to feature Hulk Hogan versus Sting. What I really like about this matchup is that you have easily my all-time favorite WWF wrestler and easily my all-time favorite WCW wrestler. And oddly enough, when I talk about like my top 10 favorite wrestlers, I never put Sting on that list. Maybe because I always associate him obviously with WCW. Even after the merge, he was never a WWF or WWE wrestler. He was like, what is he, like AEW or something? Again, I don't watch TNA, AEW, all these different acronyms. So all of that is foreign to me. It's why I still refer to it as WWF, not WWE, because to me, it will always be WWF. And I haven't watched wrestling, not really. I haven't really been a fan of wrestling since probably 97. And either late 97, possibly early 98, I think I was done with wrestling. If I was still watching wrestling late 98, I don't think so. Because 1998, my full attention moved on to baseball. And I was so enthralled with watching Cubs games every day. So that was my sport of interest. And during the whole home run chase with Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Ken Griffey Jr., before he kind of tallied off at the end of the season, you know, wrestling wasn't even I don't think even close to being near the top of my list of interests, I guess. But back to the actual matches. So I don't know. We'll start with Sting. I think Sting is one of the more interesting cats. Sting is just like Hogan growing up. Again, I didn't really watch WCW. I've always said WCW was like one of those things, you know, you're flipping through the channel. Maybe you turn on like TNT or something and WCW's on. And like clockwork, it always seems like the exact same wrestlers were always wrestling. And I kind of understand why, when you look at original San Francisco Toymakers, why they keep utilizing the exact same wrestlers over and over again. And yes, I'm pretty sure a lot of that has to do with licensing, like whose permission they got to actually build and create their action figures. But whenever I turn on WCW, it was Sting against Ric Flair. It was Sting against Vader. It was Legion of Doom versus Nasty Boys, or Steiner Brothers against Nasty Boys. So those were always the guys you always saw wrestle. I really never saw anybody else. So when I got this figure from Erik, I don't even remember when I got this piece. I want to say probably sometime in 2022. I'm assuming that when I did my first, so I started my first LJN tournament in March 2022, and this had, if I recall correctly, this was part of that tournament, so I probably would have acquired it very early 2022 at some point. It's a great figure. You guys know, you look at the original Galoob 2-Up of Sting. Either you look at the Galoob or you look at like the Ram Treasures Galoob 2-Up to LJN form. With the whole closed hands, right? I'm not a big fan of that. And it's basically the exact same pose of what you get years prior with the Macho Man fighting pose. So by taking Macho Man, it makes sense because Series 3 Macho Man 86, and then 4 years later Galoob Series 1 came out with your blue Sting and your salmon pants Sting. So very similar pose. Not a huge fan of that. I love the Surfer Sting. I really like the overall graphics. Looks spectacular. There's obviously deficiencies that are really going to stick out. Like the way the head is kind of removed. You can really see the outline around the neck. And yeah, like when you look at him from like this side, his head is like this. Like it's all left neck, but his head is too far to the right. So there are obviously discrepancies to the figure where it could have been done a whole lot better. All the added championship belts really helps when you get figures like the Kerry Von Erich figures, like Dusty Rhodes, like Sting, like Ric Flair. It's nice to have all those added belts because they're like some of your big heavyweight champions, right? So, awesome figure. Is it one of Eric's best? I would say a mid-level figure. And then Hulk Hogan. So, I want to say around January of 2023 or so. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sometime around that time frame, I got a package with this figure in, and I think I got a few other figures, which probably included like the Maroon Series 2 repaint of Andre the Giant, and probably got like a few other figures. And I bragged about the figure. I mean, it was okay. I liked it. It wasn't what I was expecting. If you actually look at the original San Francisco Toymakers, I really should have brought that figure down to give you a comparison. But if you look at like, okay, here, let's put it this way. I've seen people customize an LJN Series 1 Hulk Hogan, the exact same look. And they made it look so pristine, so perfect, that it matched up nearly identical to the original San Francisco figure. And the only way you could really tell them apart is because the original San Francisco figure is kind of like this, right? As opposed to the Hulk Hogan LJN, which is, you know, the good pose. So it's shiny, it's glossiness, it pops. I just thought that Erik was going to paint over the skin. I wasn't expecting him to build on a shirt. I think that was a nice addition. Sometimes I really like the fact when customizers have that little built-on accessory when you can sit there and feel the shirt and you can feel that separation and you can kind of like feel clothing essentially. But sometimes I say it a lot, and I feel like it's not necessary all the time. And this wasn't really one of those cases. And, you know, pants, all he did here, I think, is paint the legs red, which is great. I mean, that's really all he had to do. The boots were already yellow. Paint the pants further down. I just don't understand, like, why he had to build more boots on top of the existing yellow boots. When he was kind of explaining it to me, I'm like, you know, you're the artist. I'm going to leave that up to you. But it just, I kind of feel like that's too much. You know, built on and bend. So he really put a lot of time and effort into this. On the contrary to like figures I got from like this compared to what I got recently, you could kind of see the amount of time and that it would have taken to the time and effort to make some of these figures. And I can't knock, it's not what I was quite expecting, but at least I could sit back and say he put all the time and effort in the world in making this. So I was pleased with that. But for me, like I said, I think anytime you come up against a Series 1 Hulk Hogan, it's relatively going to be a no-brainer. So, easily, and even if this was just regular Series 1 LJN Hulk Hogan, I think I still would have given him the leg up. So, Hulk Hogan over Sting. Number 2 from the Raider Nation was Doink, as he squares off against original Series 2 Andre the Giant. And we'll start with Doink. From the Raider Nation, Justin is easily one of the easiest people to deal with. One of my all-time favorite sellers. It's why I've given so many shout-outs and done so many reviews about the figures that I've acquired from the Raider Nation. In fact, when it comes to customizers, Wrestlingwriter, Robert Jackson, Mark Hackenberg, and even though Kenny Lester is officially the artist, the Raider Nation is basically what I group it under, because that's the store that I buy it from off of eBay. So it's one of those businesses, or one of those customizers, one of those sellers, at least I should say, that get some of my most largest shout outs, because I've done so many videos for them, because I've gotten so many purchases, and I've always been so excited. I always talk about the figures, and I will keep saying it because it's necessary. They do not cheap out when it comes to utilizing the right figures. You're not using Iron Sheik. You're not using Nikolai Volkov. You're not using Roddy Piper or Hillbilly Jim. Junkyard Dog is relatively cheap. I'm trying to look around. Paul Orndorff, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. The Tito Santana, most definitely. Jesse Ventura, most definitely. Those are all, I don't want to say cheap, but very affordable figures. And when you look at the LJN roster, talking about original figures, One Man Gang, Ken Patera, Harley Race, none of these have like necessarily fantastic play poses that you're just dying to use, right? But they're all highly valuable figures. We're talking like $60 plus, where all the other figures I mentioned are probably like under $15 to purchase. And most of the time, you probably get them around anywhere between $3 to $10. Yeah, Tito Santana, Jesse Ventura, you can get them for pennies practically. So yeah, utilizing a Harley Race may not be the best figure in the world, but it's an expensive figure. The Raider Nation, when you're looking at the Hercules figure, is it the most dominant custom you've ever seen? Probably not, but using Billy Jack Haynes, a very expensive LJN figure, and then you're customizing it to make it even more valuable. So yeah, I like that fact. Or using the 1, 2, 3 kit I have for them, utilizing Rick Martel, right? So it's they always use top quality figures, so I really appreciate that. But when you looked at that Hercules figure, and then you look at like this Doink, right? You look at the hair. The hair is very similar. The way that they put, I don't know, I can't explain it. You see how it kind of like, how the way that's puffy and like kind of like Afro-esque. So a lot of the figures from Kenny, he kind of looks the same way. What I find fascinating about the figure is somehow, some way, he was able to kind of shave off the actual clothing accessories, the actual jacket. Now, he didn't build on any extra clothing. All of this is basically painted on the body, but it's splendid work, okay? Doink the Clown, to me, in all of my tournaments, has always gone extremely far, even though he does not have the best play pose. Why? Because he is an excellent looking action figure. One of my favorite pieces from the Raider Nation. For the longest time, I probably classified him as like one of my top, probably in the top 3. Now I probably put maybe 1, 2, 3 Kid in the top 3, but I'd probably still say top 5, top 6. When you kind of look at the face, man, really super freaking creepy. Gives you that damn John Wayne Gacy serial killer vibe. Psychotic. And Doink the Clown, man, absolutely insane. Maniac Matt Bourne. They really dialed down his character when he was replaced later on by Skinner. What was that guy's name? And from the Fabulous, was it Fabulous Ones? Was it Stanley? I want to say Lane, but I could be wrong. All this information, man, it's hard to keep track of all of it. But, you know, drugs, alcohol, you know, obviously not exactly the easiest person in the locker room to get. There was this really awesome documentary and kind of go over the history of him back in, like, you know, his Rat Pack days with, like, Duggan and DiBiase, and it's just a sad story. And kind of seeing, like, his daughter later on in life, and I don't want to talk about that. That's depressing, man. This is supposed to be a fun tournament matchup, right? But maybe one day we'll go more in detail. Maybe in the next round we'll talk about something like that. Because we can't always talk about playability and appearance in every single round. It becomes redundant. So we're going to have to find other things to start talking about. So at least let the first round be about the figures themselves. There are so many awesome Andre the Giant figures in this tournament. I've always said Andre the Giant Series 1. Forget the elongated head. Forget the extra long afro and whatnot. Maybe the bigger belly, whatnot. I still say Andre the Giant Series 1 is, in my opinion, the third best LJN figure. Now, when you start looking at, like, Series 2, and you got the smaller, you know, shaved head, obviously, that big old afro is gone. The face is more realistic. Body-wise, more realistic, I guess. Fine. Yeah, I mean, if I'm sitting down, and I've said it before, Blackstrap Andre, 3-1, or 3A. Blue Andre, Series 2, 3B. Series 1 Andre, 3C, but playability for Series 2 and 6 are the same. Series 1 is a little bit different, where the arm is just a pinch out further. So play-wise, yeah, you'll always go with the Series 1. It's just a little bit more enjoyable. And, of course, when I'm looking at a figure like this, and I'm looking around trunks and boots, and I'm like, damn, this is like a 99% mint figure. This is like a $75 figure, right? So you don't want to damage something like this. Whereas a Series 1 figure, even mint, you're probably looking at about 35 bucks tops. And that really depends on what seller you're buying it from. Otherwise, you're probably getting like 15 bucks for it, right? So, value. I always look at it based on value as well. This sucks because when I drew these names, this was not a fun matchup. This was not an easy matchup to choose from. these matchups should never be happening in round one. And I get it with the amount of figures. Eventually, you are going to run into matchups like this. You're going to have to. But when I talk about a rating scale, right? 90% rating, let's say. This is like a 90% rating. Let's say this was a 10% rating, hypothetically. It's not fun because you have like one of those type of matchups where it's so obvious who the winner is going to be before you even bring the figures up or even talk about them. But if it's like a 90 to 60 rating, it's like, yeah, the figure's good, but can that figure, even if it's not as great, have the potential to win? Maybe there's just enough to put it over the top. And it, color-wise, Doink the Clown is absolutely brutal. One of the best, I think, of all the customs. I can't do it, though. For the first time in 3 tournaments, Doink the Clown is a first-round elimination. No matter how many Andre the Giant figures I have in this tournament, no matter how many that I've already pushed forward to round 2, it's a figured first tournament, and I have to go with the one that I enjoy the most. And Andre the Giant is that figure for me. There are a couple custom blackstrap Andre the Giants where they utilize the Series 2 Andre as repaint. I've eliminated those 2 figures, and I pushed forward 2 figures that were inferior. So, could I keep doing that? I mean, this isn't really a major inferior figure, but it's not as good as Andre Series 2. So, to me, a very, I don't want to say easy answer, but it's the right answer. Next matchup, Bobby Heenan Black is going to square off against Dingo Warrior. And this is our matchup. And we will start off with the Black Bobby Heenan. So, from Harvey Snuts, that's his name. I keep forgetting his name. But I'm Mercari Harvey Snuts. If you look up screen name, Hulk $0125. He had a ton of amazing LJN customs. And great thing is, I'd bundle up a bunch of figures, send an offer, he'd accept a lot of them, or if he'd countered, he would counter at a reasonable price. So, I don't know, hypothetically, if I bundled, let's say 5 figures, and the price came out to be $130, and I come out at like 110, let's say, he would have come back at like 128 or something stupid, Maybe if I come in at 110 out of 130, maybe he'd come back at like 115 or 113 or some very reasonable number. So I really enjoyed buying from him, and it's why I kept buying from him, because you know what? You're willing to work with your customers? Heck yeah, I'm going to show my loyalty and continue to buy from you. It's just that simple. And the figures that we got are absolutely amazing. Now, I love this Bobby Heenan because I love this guy. Type of look that you get from the Bobby Heenan figure, and with the black outfit to boot, this is an absolute elite Bobby Heenan figure. The only downside, I love this right here, but playability, fighting pose wise, right? It is not the same that you would get from the original LJN, so that takes points away. With that being said, I am not looking at this figure as a playable action figure. With so many Bobby Heenans, if I ever wanted to sit down and say, you know what, hey, I feel like creating myself a little wrestling match, and I want to use Bobby Heenan, I've got plenty of Bobby Heenans to choose from. I'm going to go with the original Bobby Heenan, or one of my spare Bobby Heenans. I'm not going to go with one of the customs and ruin that paint job or whatnot, right? So, no. This is fine for what it is. And it's not like you're sitting around paying $80 for this figure either. One of an absolutely amazing figures, Bobby Heenan customs, and you're getting it for an amazing price. My buddy Kirk likes to say, when we're talking about certain customizers, you're paying vintage prices for non-vintage items, essentially. And I'm like, yeah, I understand where he's coming from and makes sense, and I agree with that, but And so when I look at guys like this that are selling figures for very reasonable prices, you know, I'm grateful for them, obviously, because it allows me to take that savings and allows me to buy more. Sometimes it allows me to buy more from them. So, you know, that definitely helps a whole lot. This is a fantastic figure. I really enjoyed this one a whole lot. Dingo Warrior. Man, first time I ever saw this on Erik's page, I think he was selling it on eBay on, I don't know if he was selling it as a buy it now, or maybe it was auction. I liked the figure, but it didn't speak to me, right? Like, I really liked it. I wanted it because when it came to Erik's figures, I was buying everything from Wrestlingwriter, no matter what it was. And one day it disappeared. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was on auction, if it was buy it now, somebody else bought it. So I don't know if he came out and repainted a new figure or with the exact look, or if he didn't sell it. Maybe he sold it, got it sent back to him. I don't know. I never asked. All I know is a long time later, I saw this figure pop up, I think on his eBay, and I went and offered him like $50 for this. And one of my biggest regrets with all my LJNs, is it horrific? Is it like one of the worst decisions ever made? No, it's not that. It's not that I don't enjoy the figure. It's that value. It all boils down to value. This is not a $50 figure. Greg Valentine, you're not going to get yourself a mint Greg Valentine figure on Mercari or eBay or anything like that, right? You're going to probably get one that has a lot of paint loss if you're looking to buy one. So, Greg Valentine, maybe $7 shipping, let's say $3 tax. So, right off the bat, you're probably looking at $10. You could probably get a Greg Valentine as a purchase price for around $10. So all in all, you're paying about $20. With the amount of work that it takes to do this, maybe someone that you know, someone you trust to do customization, this will not take long. This is maybe 30 minutes of work, if that. So I'm thinking this is like a paint job that would probably cost you like $10. So, and if you already had the figure and you mail it to him and be like, hey, okay, $8 to ship it to him, $10 paint job. If he does the right thing and he doesn't charge you to ship it back and he ships it to you, well, even if you do pay it, the return fee, $16, $10, $26. So again, no matter how you look at it, I still feel like I paid twice as much of its value. We already know Greg Valentine, in of itself, Greg Valentine is one of the easiest, most fluid, most enjoyable LJN action figures to ever play with. If you're sitting down having your match, you cannot do wrong with a Greg Valentine. So when I look at like the Greg Valentine figure, when I look at his Rhythm and Blues custom, when I look at my Bruiser Brody custom, there's a reason why Bruiser Brody is a two-time champion in this tournament, because this pose right here is absolutely insane. I've always said, when it comes to Galoob, you put Sid Vicious and Barry Windham together, you could keep all of the other figures. As long as I have those two figures, you will always have enjoyment, because they just work so well in tandem. This is a fun look. Not your basic Ultimate Warrior, but I always say AWA with like him and like Sting as tag team partners, but they weren't in AWA. So I always have to kind of like correct myself or catch myself when I make that mistake. But Dingo Warrior, I think this was like a Texas-based look, and I'm over here guessing, and it literally says right on the belt, Texas. Oh god, I'm so stupid. But yeah, Texas territory. Yeah, this to me, I love the Greg Valentine pose. That works beautifully, but Bobby Heenan is my selection. Bobby Heenan is moving on to round 2. Dingo Warrior is out of this tournament. If I could go back, I would still probably try to buy the figure, but no way would I offer no $50 plus the shipping and whatever I paid on it. I probably would have offered maybe $20. And if he accepted it, great. If not, maybe we could have come to a like $25, $30 agreement. I don't know, but like I would not have offered the same amount. The value to me, it wasn't there for that figure. This last match is also from Wrestlingwriter, both figures, and it's Cactus Jack versus Kerry Von Erich. And we will start with Kerry Von Erich. So, about 2 years or so, I don't know if it was 2 years. I would say a minimum of 1 year. Between 1 year to 2 years, before Random Treasures ever came out with their version, I got this figure from Wrestlingwriter. Now, this is a resin figure. First time I did this tournament back in March of 2022. This was a 5th round figure. And then the second time he was eliminated first time go. But he was also eliminated by one of the greatest action figures ever made, period. So that didn't help. I don't remember where the Random Treasures, Kerry Von Erich, I don't remember if he won in his match, if he moved on to round 2, or if he was eliminated. But if he was eliminated, at least this right here gives another opportunity for Kerry Von Erich to advance into this tournament. Now, I actually like the purple with the tassels that Random Treasures did, and it was a rubber figure, so I enjoyed that one more. But this is the figure that they had on their page as their profile page, stock photo. So I wanted to do something different when I purchased my figure from them. Head sculpt, 3D printed, absolutely perfect. Perfect hair, perfect face, amazing. Don't like the pose, but overall, as a sculpture, as a statue, perfect figure. From a playability standpoint, he is barely better than Tito Santana from a play pose, but again, resin, right? So we're looking at him as just a statue, so play pose really doesn't factor into it. Now, a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people have, I've only seen this one, but, or maybe I'm lying, maybe I've seen 1 or 2 others. Now, I've probably seen others, but I know that the other people have utilized Lou Albano for Cactus Jack. And Mick Foley, he got up there in weight, but I don't think he was ever the size of Lou Albano. So, creating Cactus Jack or any Mick Foley character, Dude Love or Mankind or anyone like that, for Lou Albano just didn't make sense. And were they the same height? I don't think so. I would think that Cactus Jack was taller. Cactus Jack, you know what? That's the thing. I always say that I didn't know about Cactus Jack, or the first time I ever heard of Mick Foley was as Mankind in WWF, but that is wrong. That is inaccurate, because I do remember him in WCW in the early 90s, because I remember this look, and he was as brutal back then in WCW as he was years later as Mankind, and the way that he freaking falls from the Raptors, falls on tables, falls through barbed wire. This man puts his body through the ringer. I'm like, insane. The man is such a brilliant professional and performer and entertainer. This figure was well done. The head sculpt, I mean, it leaves some to be desired. It kind of reminds me of like a John Ruggiero figure, but it's still a fine figure. And Erik, he does have this habit of like gluing down the championship belts to the figure, which is fine. Now, on my little tag here, which one is it? It just says Cactus Jack. It doesn't specify which Cactus Jack, because I do have a Cactus Jack from Wrestlingwriter. I also got a Cactus Jack that I picked up from the Raider Nation last year. So that one I actually like a little bit better. That one actually utilizes a Outback Jack figure. So hopefully I actually wrote it down as Raider Nation or something on there. Now this is what's difficult about this selection, man. Oh man, I don't know. I really want to say Cactus Jack. Actually, I'm dying to say Cactus Jack. In my personal opinion, I like the Cactus Jack figure a whole lot more. I feel like if I put Kerry Von Erich forward, I would only be putting him forward because he's more realistic and more statuesque. So that right there, but it's not. When I make my decisions, I've said this in my videos, and I'll mention it from time to time. When I make my decisions, it's not always about which figure is better than his competition in that particular matchup. Okay, Cactus Jack moves on round 2. Great. Based on who's already gone through to round 2, is Cactus Jack, does he have a better chance of defeating any of those figures to move on to round 3? Any of those figures, does he have any chance to move on to round 4? Or does Kerry Von Erich give you a better opportunity to defeat those who've already moved forward? I could sit here and say all day that this is one of those, there is no wrong answer. I am dying to say Cactus Jack, and I think that's where I'm going to go with this. Ugh, I can't do it, though. Personally, I like the Cactus Jack figure more, but 1-to-1, I think maybe because of the overall appearance and the overall look, the design, the realistic look to the Texas Tornado or to the Kerry Von Erich figure, I think this does give you the better opportunity to defeat those who are in round 2. And this isn't just about moving on to round 2. This is hopefully going to move on to round 3, 4, possibly round 5 even. Let's see if he could get back in round 5 for the first time since the first tournament. Now, this is only tournament 3, so it's not like we got a ton of tournaments to compare, but after being eliminated in the first round last time, I think it would be a real shot in the face if he got eliminated first time go again. But I'm going to go with Kerry Von Erich in this battle. So, we did hover. We're hovering around 45 minutes in this video, guys. I've been trying to get these videos cut, slimmed down, but man, I can't do it. This video was so difficult. There were a lot of really good matchups, a lot of tough decisions, and none of them were easy. And by the time we start getting into like round 4, I mean, heck, I might have to start slimming them down to like 2 matchups per video in round 4 because you're going to have 40-minute videos just for 2 matchups. Excuse me. But this was tough. There were a lot of good matches, but I saw a lot of great figures that I want to talk more about and see more in this tournament. And it's not just about first round eliminations. Even those that make it to round 2 and get eliminated, I kind of feel like a lot of the figures that are really good, even second round eliminations, I think is a waste of a tournament appearance for them. Any of those figures that fall short of a round 3, I think is wasteful. But guys, that does conclude this video. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, thanks everybody.